Welcome back to Tech Total Access. I'm Katie Leeper, keeping you updated as we Hokies hunker down. In the spirit of Utprosum, Virginia Tech President Tim Sands has been committed to keeping the Virginia Tech community safe and informed of all the changes he has made to the university in the wake of the pandemic. The proactive measures taken by Virginia Tech to stop the further spread of the coronavirus include moving classes online, canceling all spring events, making significant changes to on-campus dining services, and restricting all gatherings to 10 people or less. President Tim Sands shared why Virginia Tech took such swift and drastic measures.
It just didn't seem like there was a way to go all online and then to kind of come back and then try to partially go online. It just seemed more disruptive than it was worse. So we made the call fairly early to go all online for the semester. In fact, I mean, we were lucky because we had a spring break that happened to fall just when this crisis became emergent, at least when we became to realize it was not going to be something that was going to be constrained to countries outside the U.S. It was really going to affect us. So yeah, it was at the time it was hard to make that decision for about 5 minutes. But when our incident response team got together, we started listening to people. It really, we converged quickly that, yeah, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it all the way. We're going to finish the semester that way.
Virginia Tech is taking social distancing seriously, as any noise violations or disruptive parties at off-campus locations can be referred to the Student Conduct Office for disciplinary action. But President Sands has been impressed with how students have adhered to the guidelines he's put in place.
It's been difficult, but on the other hand, it's been wonderful to see our community step up. Our students have been amazing. You know, once everybody got the idea that, hey, this is really serious, this physical or social distancing is not a joke. Everybody snapped to. We had incredible participation.
Because many students and professors have expressed concerns about transitioning to online classes, Virginia Tech has developed additional options for course grading and assessment. President Sands explained his reasoning behind giving students these options.
It was in recognition of the fact that this quick pivot to online, to remote learning, was not the ideal situation, and that it was going to add some time and stress and complication into our students' lives. So of all the things they should be worrying about, getting the difference between an A and a B shouldn't have been one of them. And we just felt like health, safety, security, financial issues, those are all going to come ahead when you're in a crisis like this.
Despite being grateful for these options, some students are concerned with how graduate schools will view their transcripts if they choose to use the credit non-credit grading option. President Sands cannot speak for all graduate schools, but he did discuss how Virginia Tech's graduate school plans to gauge this semester.
I expect almost everyone will be understanding toward the situation. I know with our own graduate school, of course, we're looking at that issue carefully because we don't want to have someone's life dream interrupted for something they couldn't control in this way. And where it's difficult is when there are external accreditors and that we don't have complete control over what the standards are. But even there, what we're seeing is that the accreditation bodies are being much more flexible than they were before the crisis. So I'm pretty sure that this is not going to get in too many people's way of achieving what they want to achieve. I would say, though, it's really important that our students talk to their advisors and make sure that whatever choice they make, and they've got till the end of the semester to make those decisions, that they make them with a lot of care, because they need to make sure that this is not going to interfere with their ability to graduate or have those credits applied to whatever goals they have. And we felt like as a university, we couldn't make a blanket statement about that. Every individual case is different, so there's a real dependence here on the students talking to their advisors and thinking that through.
Although Virginia Tech highly recommended students to move off campus and offered a $1,000 refund for housing costs, students still had the choice of whether or not to remain in their residential hall. President Sands explained why Virginia Tech did not make it mandatory for students to move off campus, even though a majority of other colleges did.
We knew that we had international students who probably couldn't get back home. We had some who lived in areas in the U.S. where there were outbreaks and where we didn't think traveling was necessarily a good idea. There were some that didn't have internet access at home. And there were some that had family members at home that were sensitive to something like COVID-19 that would have been threatened by a family member bringing the virus back, and unintentionally, of course. But we thought about those scenarios when we decided to go light and not push too hard on mandatory evacuation of the residence halls. So we feathered it in and thought about it at each step. And I think we were right. In the end, about 500 students out of the 10,400 that were resident on campus had a good reason to stay. And we just didn't think it was right to throw them out.
The changes made to Virginia Tech are especially hard for seniors as they are missing their last semester as a Hokie. President Sands shared why he made the difficult decision to make graduation virtual.
We didn't make those decisions lightly. We did look at the calendar. We thought a little bit about what the likely public health scenarios would be. The one thing we were trying to avoid, and maybe we got it right, maybe we didn't, but we were trying to avoid the situation where we rescheduled an in-person commencement and then had to cancel it again. Because whenever you do commencement, not only is there a huge organizational component that the university has to undertake, but people have to rent hotel rooms. They have to plan around a trip to Blacksburg. And we just didn't feel it was right to keep pushing that back. I think the virtual commencement, it's not meant to be a replacement, but it's going to be good. And I hope everybody can participate in that. The ability to come back in the fall or the following year is not perfect, but those are options where families really want to be there for a traditional commencement. The fourth thing we added was the tailgate, and again, that's not a replacement for commencement, and we may not be able to do it. It kind of depends on what the public health scenarios are like in September, but optimistically, if we can pull that off, it'll be fun for those who can manage it. So yeah, that was the hardest decision by far of all the decisions we've made in the last several weeks.
Virginia Tech made significant changes to on-campus dining services by transitioning to only takeout or delivery service. The only operating dining centers are DX, Owens Food Court, and Audubon Payne and Squires Student Center. A lot of students that worked at Virginia Tech's on-campus dining centers relied on that income to support themselves throughout the academic year. President Sands discussed the options being given to student employees to possibly subsidize the lost income.
For student wage workers, which is a different class of employee, but a really important one because a lot of them are using the income that they're getting to help pay for the cost of attendance. We couldn't keep them all on the payroll. A lot of them were reassigned to other positions, but where we couldn't keep them on the payroll, we're trying to collect information and support those students. We have a student emergency fund to the Dean of Students Office that is dealing with requests for rent, food money, whatever it may be that comes up. And we're looking for ways to further mitigate that problem. Just don't hesitate to reach out to the Dean of Students Office. We have resources. We have donor resources. We now have some federal resources that are coming in. And so we just want to make sure that people don't say, oh, I'll be okay. Definitely report your situation and we'll see what we can do.
In response to the concerns from Hokie parents about tuition, Virginia Tech offered a $1,000 refund for students living on campus who returned home, refunded parking passes, and allowed students' remaining dining hall funds to be credited to the fall semester. President Sands explained how Virginia Tech is handling the new financial burden caused by the pandemic.
We wanted to make sure that the decisions weren't made on the basis of money, that it was something that the student realized that they didn't have a need to be on campus, and so the money wasn't going to keep them there. So that was really the rationale. The $1,000 figure is a round number. The housing plans are all different depending on where you're staying, what your deal is, and we didn't get down to the nitty gritty. We just picked a number that we thought was about right.
Although most students and professors are focused on their new academic routines, some are already worrying about what the pandemic means for summer and fall semester. President Sands discussed his hopes for the future.
It just adds complexity if people don't know and they're wondering. So we have committed to online summer. It's a big sacrifice because there's a lot of gatherings. It's not just the classes and the coursework, but we have a lot of events. The campus is not as busy as it normally is during the academic year, but there are a lot of people, especially external folks, who come in and run big conferences on our campus, use the residence halls, use the dining facilities. So not an easy decision either, but that one we made last week. We're now working on fall and all the options that we may have in front of us in the fall. The way we're looking at the calendar working out, it looks like early June would be the likely time when we'll have a good view as to what the fall will be like. We're doing everything we can to make it as normal as possible. But that will require things like widespread and rapid testing, ability to quarantine if there's a case, things that we know we need to be able to do, but we can't quite do yet.
The fear of the unknown also affects high school juniors and seniors applying to Virginia Tech, as standardized tests and in-person college visits have been canceled until further notice. President Sands explained how this has affected the admission process for incoming students.
We are looking at a proposal to make it optional, to make testing optional for the fall of 2021. For the people, and we haven't approved that, but that's likely what will happen. For the fall of 2020, the testing isn't such an issue because most of that is already underway. The visits are a big issue, and so we're doing everything we can to facilitate virtual visits. There's a lot, actually, in some ways it's kind of cool. I've been through a virtual visit, and I thought it was pretty good. It isn't, again, not the same thing as being on campus, but pretty close second. Admissions are very strong. We've got a lot of students putting down deposits. So we're feeling good about the fall, but we're staying on top of it, trying to make sure we're being as responsive as we can to the questions that are inevitable, because if you can't be on campus and ask them directly, there's always this concern over, did I miss something? And so you'll see a lot of reaching out there over the next few weeks as students make their decisions.
President Sands had some final words for Hokie Nation.
A lot of admiration that I have for our community and the way that they've demonstrated put pro sem not only as an individual act, but as a collective act. And it's made a difference. It'll be a few months before we can statistically look back and say, what difference did it make for the Virginia Tech community in Blacksburg specifically to be, and the surrounding community, be so adherent to the social distancing and all the other requirements. And I'm sure we'll look back and say that it had made a big difference in the health outcomes for a lot of our residents and students and faculty.
Thank you for watching Tech Total Access Hokies Hunker Down. I'll keep you updated throughout the day on our Instagram.